So you're already on the week 2, and today we're gonna look on the, it's not chapter 2, we are still on the chapter 1, which is on the input, output, and also assignment. And this one we're gonna look on some example of how we can design our program. It's a computer program into a different approach, right? Okay, so writing computer programs based on input, output, and assignment instruction. So this is the what I call the scope of this lecture. Is on week 3, and yesterday and also the last week we already talked about a lot of things regarding the input, output, and also the assignment, how we can design our computer program for user to key in some inputs, okay, most probably on the numerical inputs, and how we can do some calculations by using the assignment operator, equal operator, and then we have some multiplication, minus symbol, plus symbol, and so on. And the last thing that we do is how we can display again the product of simple mathematics, product of addition, divisions, deduction, whatsoever, and so on, into the text format by using the output instructions. So hopefully throughout the first week that we've done regarding the input, output, and also assignment, hopefully that a majority of you understand what is the input instructions, what is the output instructions, and the assignment instructions. And throughout the week, we already talk about how you can design the name of the variables. Okay, there is the conditions, the rules that you need to follow in order to have a valid variable name for your computer program. Right. Writing computer programs require 2 skills. Okay. So you as a student, okay, you as a student that will become a computer programmer in your area. Okay, what I mean is that in your electrical engineering, whatsoever, and so on, you need to follow these skills. Okay, the first one is the algorithm. So algorithm is, I can say it is normally being taught in the computer program, that you need to understand how the scripts works in order to solve the computational problem. The second one here is the syntax of computer programming, right? So in your syllabus, you are using the Python programming language. So meaning that all the things, the syntax, okay, the statements in the computer programs, you need to follow the syntax of Python language. If you are looking in the other languages, for example, C programming, C++ programming, that we teach this computer language into the other faculty. Okay, for my faculty, we are using a C programming language. If you compare both Python and as well as C program, it looks different. Okay, it looks different. I cannot say that it's totally different, but the syntax looks similar, but there is some difference in terms of the syntax. Okay, if you jump into Java language, if you jump to the JavaScript, Perl language, and so on, you will say that the syntax looks dissimilar. So you need to follow that syntax for that specific programming language. And your level, you are using the Python language. So it will consist of the instructions, consist of the variables, text, or the other words is strings, operator, and so the values. So in this slide, okay, yesterday I will talk about some kind of the type of data type that I talk about. Okay, data types that refers to the values. Okay, values. We have like integer value, for example, 1, 2, 3, and so on. In other words, I can say this one is the decimal number. The second data type here is float. Okay, float is a floating point. Okay, for example, 1.0, 2.0, let's say 1.5. All these numbers we consider as a floating point. Even though 1.0 and also 1 is equal to the same number, but since we need to be strict in order to have variable data type, which is I do want to use integer or float, you need to decide. And the last one here is string. Okay, this string is considered as a text. Let's say my name here is say AMRI. Okay, so like I mentioned yesterday as well, is a sequence of characters, a sequence of alphabets. Okay, alphabet ZAMRI is in sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sequence of alphabets that we need to consider. This one has become the string. The other example for the string, you can imagine like the course subject name, okay, subject name, your metric ID, also the string considered as a string. But normally throughout this syllabus, we're gonna use these two kind of the data type because you are having a computational problem. It's more the maths, okay? So all the input value, all the data that you want to extract and also to formulate is come from the numbers, normally from this one, okay? So it's not much on this one. Either maybe you can do some kind of the program that has some kind of please enter username and also password in order to do in order to log in into the computer program later. Okay, you can do that by having this kind of a string data type. So the first part of this slide is we're gonna see on the what is algorithm. Okay, so most of you may not understand what is an algorithm. Okay, but you will see this algorithm in during the mathematics. Okay, algebra also and so on. That is come from the Muslim scholar. We call it al-Khawarizmi. That's come from the terms algorithm. So what is algorithm actually? So algorithm is one of the step-by-step instruction for certain tasks. Let's say, for example, here I have a one algorithm in order to put a books into a box. So the step in order to put a book into a box here, so we have 4 normal steps. Okay, so the first step we can do is open the box first. Okay, so you need to open the box in order to put a box into the box here. Okay, the next step here, you need to pick up the books. So you will hold the books into the box. Okay, put the box inside the box and close the box. So these are the normal steps that I can say for real situations, for very basics understanding what is algorithm. Okay, so I remind again, so algorithm is a step-by-step instruction for certain tasks. Okay, so this task is to put the books into a box. A very simple scenario. So what is algorithm in real scenario? So how we can imagine algorithm in computer programming? So the similar things in computer programming that we have step-by-step process into for computational problem. Okay, let's say I have here some problem, how to calculate the base area and also the volume of this case study. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps in order to solve the computational problem, okay, by using the algorithm, okay, right? So before we go detail on this part, okay, detail on this algorithm, I want to show you, so what is algorithm? So algorithm is a sequence of instructions, or I can say that it's a step-by-step instructions, step-by-step instructions that must be performed in order to solve a well-formulated problem. Okay, so every time I give you some exercise, okay, So that is the problem that you need to do. It can be anything problems, okay? But in your case study is mostly on the computational problem that reflects to the numerical value, and then you need to do the computational calculation and so on. Right, so back on the example that we have here, I have here is a very simple computer program, or I can say it's an algorithm. So you need to input a radius, but in terms of the algorithm is like a English words, daily English words that you can that we can interpret. Each of the statement is belongs to the computer program. For example, get radius here is one of the English words. Okay, but this one we cannot use this statement, we cannot use sentences for the computer programs. Okay, but for computer programs we have a syntax in order to how to get the radius. Okay, so how to get the radius is like this one. Later we will show you by using the eval and also the input instruction for this particular algorithm. The first step is get the radius, and then the second step is get the height. Later we do some assignment that we want to set a pi value is a constant value. What is constant value? Is a fixed value. You cannot change the pi value. Let's say you want to change the pi value is 1.4. You cannot do that because the pi value is a constant. So pi value is equal to 3.14. Okay, right? The next step that you need to do is do the calculation for the base area. So base area is equal to pi multiplied by radius, okay, times radius. Sorry. Okay, so radius. Okay, so it's squared. So assign also compute volume equal to base area. So base area is come from step number 4 multiplied by the height, and then you got the output of the base area. So the last thing that you can do here is to print out all the results for the base area and also the volume. So step number 1 until step number 6 here is step by step instructions or sequence of instructions in order to calculate the base area and also the volume. So base area and volume here is the output that reflects to the formulated problem. So formulated problem through these calculations. Okay. So how we can design this algorithm into the computer program? Okay. So this is the first approach in order to design the algorithm. There are several approaches in order to design the algorithm, and at the end of the result, you will get the same output as well. Even though the sequence is not fixed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here, you may have different kind of idea. Okay, let's say student 1, they want to get radius first, and then assign the pi value later, right? So and then do the calculation, get the height later in step number 4 and so on. Some students have different kind of the logic in the algorithm as well as the structure of the program itself. But at the end, all the students will get the same output. But you are using the same formula. But what I mean is that the sequence of the steps, okay, may be different. Okay, so this is the first approach. So we look later in the second approach in the next slide. So but before that, how we can design the algorithm that we get in the previous slide into the computer program, which is on the Python language. So as you can see from this slide, I do directly one-to-one in terms of the line number here without any comments in the computer program in the Python here. Okay, you can see here the first two lines here is the radius and so the height. Okay, so just now algorithm is English words. Okay, it's English word for your reference. Okay, in order that you know what is the procedural steps, the step-by-step instruction for the formulated problem. So get radius, is line number 1. Okay, this one. Okay, so how you can design into the computer program? So this is the way that you can do. This is input, as well as the height here. You do the make sure that the user key in some inputs into the program by using these instructions, input instructions. Okay, yesterday I already talked about this eval. Hopefully you still remember this one. And then step number 3 here, we assign the value of pi is equal to 3.14. Okay, 3.14. And then we do the assignment, or we compute the base area by using the pi value that we assign from here. Okay, line number 4 here, to be calculated by radius and also radius. Okay. Step number 5 is compute the volume, the base area, so the height. Okay, and so on. And the last step, we do the print out the output. Okay, so line 3, 4, 5 is the assignment that consists of the assignment of the pi. Okay, calculation together with the assignment of the base area, as well as the assignment of the volume, which is the product of the base area and also the height. Last one is the output of your program. So this is the first approach of the computer program for this case study. Okay, let's say you have different kind of the idea how you can design the algorithm as a computer program for the same case study, but different step of different step of the algorithm, but you still got the same answer. Okay, try to look on this example number expression number 2 here, which is, as you can see here, get radius is still on the first line. Okay, but the get height is still on the line number 4. What you can see from this one? Okay, try to identify the differences of algorithm approach in approach 1 and also approach 2. So in this slide we have approach number 2. Previously we have of the approach number 1, which is consists of this algorithm. So later at the end of the class, try to identify what is differences, even though I will give some description of this one. Okay, approach. So line number 1 and line number 2 is the input. Okay, line number 2, 3, and also line number 5 here is the assignment. Okay, is the assignment. So why this we can do this kind of the approach? Because of what? Okay, try to look here. Get radius is one the input. Okay, so assign pi equal to 314 is not dependent into the previous instruction, because the line number 1 is only radius. Okay, get the radius, input a radius. Okay, we look on the assignment number, line number 3 here is we do some calculation, which is pi and also the radius here must be assigned or must be insert before we do this calculation. So that's why the pi value we put it before we do some calculations, as well as the radius here we need to key in before we do some calculation. Otherwise, if we look on the what we call in the Tony software, we have a variable component. You will see the value that you key in right after you enter the from the shells components. There is some value. Otherwise, if you don't have any value and then you want to do the calculations, we cannot do calculations here because it doesn't have any value for the calculation parts. So we look on the line number 4 here, which is the height, which is the input as well. Okay, so where this variable will, okay, where this attribute will be used in the other steps. Okay, in step number 5, because we have the height here. Okay, right? The base area is dependent on the line number 3. The height here is dependent on line number 4, input from the line number 4. Okay, so pi value is come from here. Okay, line number 2. The radius is come from the number 1. So this is what you call as the dependencies. Okay, dependent. So the variable must be dependent into the previous instruction, must have some values. Okay. So what about print out here? Similar things from the other steps here. What I mean regarding the depend. Okay. Okay. So all the variables depends in from the other inputs or from the other assignment. Okay. So base area again depends from this one. Okay. And also the value here is depends to the from the line number 5, right? So hopefully you understand that one. So this is the second approach. There is the other third approach that we can do. Okay. And this one, we don't have any assignment for the pi value. As you can see here, we only have 5 steps. Previously, we have 6 steps in order to do the formulated program of this kind of the base area so problem. But currently, we remove the assignment of the pi. Okay, so by stating the fixed value to this one. Okay, 3.14 multiplied by radius, multiplied by radius, and you still got the same output of the base area. Okay, so similar things. Okay, so radius is come from the line number 1. Okay, line number 1. Height as well. Okay, in line number 4 is from the line number 3, base area, and so the volume, right? So try to identify the difference between algorithm approach 1 and also approach 2 and also approach 3. Okay, so I'll give you this kind of the approaches because some of you may have different kind of the idea into the programming. Okay, maybe you want to get the radius by using the this approach. Okay, and maybe you want to get the other steps by using the first approach or the second approach. Okay, but you will get the same output at the end because of what? Because you are using the same formula here. Okay, the same formula, the same input, but the steps for getting the inputs, okay, for radius and height, may be in not in sequence from the others. Approach 1, approach 2, and so on approach 3. Okay, right. So in summary, I want to summarize all the things that I talked about before this one, okay, from the slide number 1 until right now. So to write a computer program algorithm, so you need to determine the equations that you need to be solved, okay, right? So if the equations is gives to some kind of the do addition of two numbers, okay, what is the suitable operators for adding two numbers? Okay, let's say you want to find the slope of 2 points from 2 points. So what is the equation from this particular case study? And normally normally the case study or the exercises, the equation already given to you, but you need to know how to use that particular equations, right? So ask what is not given, okay, what is not given in the case study or from the problem, and store the answer to a variable. So what is the meaning of this one is that in the formula, you may not see what kind of the output that need to be stored. So you need to design an additional variable that will hold that particular value. Okay, for example, like this one is volume. Okay, volume. The volume here may not be appear in the formula. Okay, but let's say, okay, the question is how to calculate the value for the a box, okay, a cubic, for example, and so on. So you need to think about additional variables that can be used in order to store, in order to hold the product of the after the calculations. And then you need to follow the priority or in the computation of equations. Okay, so you need to follow the kind of the priority, okay, which need to be count first. For example, the base area must be calculated first. The base area must be calculated first. in order to find the volume. Okay, you cannot calculate the volume first and then base area, right? So if the volume depends on the base area, so make sure data for equation is known, meaning is that the data is known. What I mean say is that the value for the radius and also the value for the height is being assigned, okay, is being keyed in by the user, to make sure that you can do the mathematical equations. So finally calculate and show the result. This one is the what you call a guideline. It's not a very standard guideline, but it's some kind of the what you call the instructions that you can do, okay, in order to try to answer some certain questions. Right. For example, I have an example here. We have some equations, okay, to find the area. We are using the same case study, and we have a volume, in the volume, which is depends the output from this one, okay. So meaning that you cannot do the volume and then you calculate for the A, right? The area, base area. So you need to do the base area first, and then you need to do the second one here, the volume. So as once is not given is stored into the variable. So you have R and so the H, okay, radius as well as the height. So it's not given in the formula, but you can be thinking that since we are creating a computer program, so you design a computer program by letting the user to key in some inputs into from the shells components. Okay, shell components means that some kind of the inputs they can do calculation for the A and also V, right? So not V and then A. So this is what we call the parity. Okay, the parity. So the first one find the base area, second one do the finding the volume. So print out the results. So this area is like this one. Okay, you can use this kind of the what you call formatting for the text area, yeah, by calling the value of A and as well calling value of from B from the assignment of A and also B here. So make sure that because we are using the print, okay, so print double quotes here, this is the text, okay, text, right? So if you combine the text together with the value that you do from the calculation here, put the plus, okay, so the plus, right? So I think this one is not cannot be run in the Python because you're using plus, but the correct way is here by using comma A, right, comma again, and volume blah 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 blah, double dot again, okay, double quote, comma C, bracket, okay, bracket here is meaning the parenthesis. Now, so how is the algorithm? So this is an example algorithm. You can combine together since R and so H here is the input. You can combine get radius and also get height into one sentence like this one. Okay, so we already showed the number of steps, but in terms of the computer program, you must do one by one also. R and also the H. Right, second one, similar things, finding the base area by using the pi value and the radius that we key in just now. Calculate the volume, base area multiplied by the height, and print out the result by using this statement. Okay, so there is some exercises that you can try for this one, but I want to reserve this lab exercise for the next lab session by next week. Okay, right, so far is there any questions? So we already end our session for lecture today. Okay, So you can look on this example of the exercise that I will share next week. Okay, maybe you want to do by yourself. Okay, in terms of this kind of the exercise, it looks similar that we do in the previous lab session. All right, so I stop the lecture right now. So I open the question to the students to ask me something.
Morning, Doctor. It's Raj here.
Yes, Raj.
So do you have any assignment or any kind of submission for this particular what do you call it subtopic or lesson?
What do you mean getting that? Assignment?
Yeah, like because previously we had like a few submissions to do. So do we have something else for this particular topic?
Okay, so submission will be on the lab sessions. Okay, so since I already put the exercise in the slide, so I will update the previous slide in the column right after that, because I just changed the slide into the UMP format, but the things, the exercises is still there. So for this one, okay, right? So I want to focus you to complete the previous lab exercise, the week one first. Okay, before we go for the next exercise, because the submission ends by this Friday for week one lab exercise. So this is the week two lab exercise. I won't give you yet for this one, but I will give you the submission for this one by next week. But if you already done for the week one lab exercise, okay, so you can do this kind of the exercise that I will give you. I will select several of the lab exercise from this one. It's not all the things. Okay, I will select which one is suitable for you to do. Is it okay, Raj? And the others?
Uh, yes, Doctor. Yes, I get it. All right.
Okay. Okay, is there any question? I think Raj already submit the week one lab exercise, right?
Yes, Doctor. I did yesterday.
Okay. So the other student, do you have any some difficulties for this subject? No.
No, doctor.
No,
No. So
doctor.
okay. So far, is it okay for you?
Yes, okay.
Yang ini
So
kita
far,
baru
okay,
gear
doctor.
1 belum lagi gear 2, 3 So next week, we're gonna have a new topic for that, which is on the decisions, right? So what I can say, the decision is you need to use the logical thinkings, how you can design a computer program. Okay, just to give you some idea what is decision is that some kind of the conditions in our scenario. Okay, let's say your grade you got 50, okay, 50%. So 50% is either a C or B is the condition, okay. So we can do that kind of the scenario, and then we convert into the program. We key in 50% in the computer program, and the computer will decide either 50 is belongs to which grade, okay, either B, C, D, whatever, and so on. So you will get some conditions that you need to design in the computer program. Or let's say you want to find the largest value, okay, finding the largest value from the three numbers that you key in, finding the lowest value, something like that. So that particular case study reflects to the decisions, conditions that you need to put in the computer program. Doctor, is it still stand if I take a 3.142 for pi value compared to the slide? Yes, because 3.12 value is a constant value. Okay,